This is a special episode for the Subscription Rockstars podcast because, first of all, we're in quarantine. Second of all, this is the studio, so it's quite interesting. I don't know what you think of Subly Studios coming from quarantine. And also, I'm doing a second interview with somebody who I already know and I'm very fond of. His name is John Roman. And John and I did a podcast on when I was doing Sub to Sound podcast. What was it? 2 years ago now? About 2 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, close to it.
I think, yeah. And John and I connected on that podcast, and then we met at Sub Summit as well last year. And also another reason that this is a special episode, this is actually the first podcast episode that wasn't published, A, because of coronavirus, and B, from the last Sub Summit. So this is the beginning of a new stage in this the Subscription Rockstar podcast. And additionally, this is the 10th episode. So it's a cool one. It's a bit of a pivotal one. So thanks for doing this, John. And I'm just going to give the formal introduction as well, if you don't mind, give to just quickly make sure everybody knows who you are. So John Roman currently serves as Chief Marketing Officer of BattlBox and Managing Partner of Carnivore Club. Prior to 5 years ago, when John entered the e-commerce subscription space, he was in business-to-business sales, managing multiple teams in the technology and software space. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, John is an absolute weapon and he knows his stuff. And the BattlBox guys have done an extremely good job and are a very successful company, and the Carnivore Club as well, which you probably have heard of them, to be honest with you, if you're listening to this podcast. So, John, thanks for joining, man.
No, thanks for having me. I'm honored with all the reasons it's such a paramount episode. I'm honored that I'm your guest.
Yeah, well, you know, when it's I don't know. I feel like, as I said, it's a pivotal episode. We have an existing relationship, which really helps, and you know, I felt like it would be good fun as well, just to kind of revisit it and do it for the official Subly podcast. So. And also as well, I just want to mention something. So in our previous episodes, the format was a little bit different. I'm actually going to mix it up on this episode, where previously, you know, we've interviewed people of similar caliber to yourself, and we tend to go into more of like the top level, like the trials and tribulations, and those are kind of lessons that have been learned at a later stage in the business. Now, I know you're a marketing genius. So I want to bring it back a bit, okay? And I want to actually start to talk to you about like the early stages of a business, an e-commerce business, and
we made some mistakes.
Well, that's what I want to hear about. So yeah, basically just want to dive into a bit more of the tactical stuff and kind of principles, very like first level principles.
Okay.
And kind of reverse engineer a wee bit about BattlBox. But before we do, can you share a couple of vanity metrics just to kind of really give people a picture if they don't know BattlBox?
Sure. So we started BattlBox in February of 2015. It was perfect timing to enter the subscription box space. The survival tactical space was trending as well. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. We had two trending topic spaces, and we were able to capitalize on both. So we kind of hit the ground running. I think the first year we did just north of 6 million in revenue. We'll hit, we just, I think, surpassed maybe this month or next 55 million since inception. We'll also hit 1 million packages shipped this year. So we've seen exponential growth, crazy journey. Who would have thought? Lots of mistakes and bruised knees and those and busted faces along the journey. But you know, we built a machine at this point and taken all of our learnings and just gotten stronger through the years.
That's some serious traction right there. I also love how the name BattlBox, I romanticize the name of the business, even though it's related to what it's related to. But I like the fact that it's kind of like, you know, we're entrepreneurs. We've started businesses, and you're in a battle. It feels like you're in a battle every day. So I love that because it's kind of like a romantic aspect of it for me personally, anyway.
Sure.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Given the nature of your subscription box and your products, are you seeing an impact from coronavirus? And by the way, to the listeners or the viewers, you were on our last Corona episode and you gave us like some really good information about the impact of coronavirus. So if you're listening, check out that episode. But do you have any additional comments? And if you can, it'd be really good to hear that.
Sure. So as I said on the last podcast when we were talking about the coronavirus, it definitely creates an opportunity. And since I recorded that, which I guess was a couple of weeks ago, we've just stepped into the opportunity even more. We're a little fortunate, survival, outdoor gear. It's our whole mantra is preparing for that, shit hit the fan moment, right? So literally 5 years in the making is for situations like this. So we are a little fortunate that it's a product that is something people want. We have right now we're selling about 1,000 units a day on this foam, which is an alternative to hand sanitizer, but it's a product we would normally carry and sell. And right now it's just, it's a product everybody needs, everybody wants. So we are fortunate in that sense. Same with Carnivore Club. Meat delivered to your door right now is kind of a good product to have.
Yeah.
So, not all online e-commerce businesses are that fortunate enough that they picked a product that, strives or potentially strives in a situation like this. So we're continuing to lean into advertising. We've scaled our average spend for BattlBox. We've scaled slowly. We're definitely conservative when it comes to situations like this, but doing some quick math. We've probably increased our daily spend by about 500% for BattlBox, which is when it's already a decent spend to begin with, in my opinion. And then Carnivore Club, this is typically a very slow time because it's in between Valentine's Day and Father's Day. The slowest time of the year typically, but we're seeing Q4 numbers. So our spend is actually increased even more than that on the Carnivore side, just because there's such a low baseline anyway.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Relative to what it normally is at this period of time. It's
yeah. I mean, I can tell you that it's 2,000% increase, but it's such a low baseline of what we're spending anyway. It's not really relevant. But as far as things we've had to do a little bit different, our normal messaging for BattlBox, which talks about that moment and being prepared, we've actually had to kind of pull back a lot of our messaging that we've used over the last 5 years. Just pulled it back a little bit because it was aggressive. Not fear mongering or anything like that, but just simply saying, prepare for any scenario. Now we can't say prepare for any scenario because the internet trolls will come running. You're only doing this because of coronavirus.
Exploitation.
Yeah, it's
opportunistic.
100%. I mean, we're getting on every. So we had to scale it back a lot because our normal messaging is not something you want to use right now. It's a very sensitive topic for everyone, us included. You don't want any company doing that, taking advantage of a situation. So it's interesting waters that no one's ever kind of had go through before. So we're finding our place. We've got some floaties on, and we're trying to figure it out. But it's an opportunity for businesses at this point.
Yeah, and do you think that by adjusting and adapting right now in this environment, will lead to a stronger business at the end of it when it starts to, ease up and things start to quote unquote return back to normal, which I think is a bit of a subjective conversation alone. But do you think it will lead to a stronger foundation moving forward?
Yeah. So I think, we were fortunate that we brought on a new CFO a little over a year ago, October of 2018. And he really gave us a gut check and started immediately plugging a lot of the holes in our ship that could be, wasteful spend, just inefficient spend. So we were already moving towards being a very lean operation to begin with. But I think this situation is causing a lot of companies that haven't gone through those type of exercises yet to go through them now, because it's needed for survival. And you do need to be lean, probably in general. Wasteful spending is never a good idea, in my opinion. And I mean, if it's a lifestyle business and you don't care, it is what it is, right? If you want to truly grow a business and run a business the correct way, you shouldn't have that sort of wasteful spending in there. So I think a lot of businesses right now are being forced to go through that exercise and get lean and not be wasteful. And I think the end result will be there'll be a much healthier business. And when we do return to normalcy, they'll just be in a better, more profitable, better run spot.
Right.
So it's kind of the silver lining in all of this, assuming we do return to normalcy. Like you said, it's a whole nother topic and podcast.
Yeah. And I guess, let's not dive into too much more than that. But I think that you're right about the trimming. I think that it's very easy when you get to a certain stage in a business where you get this kind of expense creep, where things just slowly build up and you don't realize it, because it's very easy to make decisions when you've got cash flow and growth. And that, and there's two sides to this. I see people spending so much energy and time on spending less and saving money. And I think that it's a double-edged sword though, because, on the other side, you've got, it can be quite a limiting mindset to always focus on saving money rather than making more.
Sure.
And this is something I'm quite passionate about, but 100%, like, you got to trim the fat every now and again to make sure you're running lean, because I think if you don't, you might just end up in a really bad position later.
No, 100%. I agree with you. It's one of those things you spend too much time on it. Starts becoming counterproductive. You're not focused on growing the business and the things that matter.
It's a fine balance, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah. So, okay, Corona aside, I'm sure everybody's sick of hearing about Corona. I want to let's do a bit of a Marty McFly and go in a time machine back to the beginning of BattlBox, right? And I'm just thinking, I'd quite like to get into, younger John and how many co-founders have you got?
There's two others.
Two others. Okay. So the three of you together.
Not my clone though. My clone's not.
Well, we did go in a time machine.
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
It's perfect. You're definitely a marketing guy. So, now we've got in our time machine. The three of you are together. Band of brothers. If you were to go back and think about what do you think are the reasons for the success of BattlBox?
Sure. So I had to go back to normal.
No, it's fine, because it might distract people. It'll distract me. I'm like the dog, like squirrel. Especially
with the jumping jacks that we're gonna.
Oh, really?
It gets quite comical.
I love that.
So I think timing is always a part of the equation, and I think the subscription box craze that was going on, and it was at a high point in early 2015. So I think that was definitely a part of it. And then again, the survival outdoor space was trending as well. So I think a lot of it was timing.
Okay.
The most interesting part. So my business partner Daniel Dabbs, he's the guy that he serves as our CEO. He's the guy that came up with the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think telling the story of how the idea came, it really probably, to a lot of listeners, it'll be a aha moment of, hey, how do you come up with a great idea? So his wife at the time was getting a Birchbox in the mail, and he'd watch her do the monthly unboxing. She'd open it up. There'd be that excitement. You could see the emotions. And it led to him saying, hey, I want a box for myself. I want a subscription box. So he's big outdoor enthusiast. And he couldn't find one. He simply couldn't find one. And that's how it was born. It was, hey, I want this for myself. I wonder if there's anyone else that wants this too. Surely there is. And we quickly found out that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
This was a niche that was not served well. Now, since there's tons of competitors and the rest is history, but it was that moment of finding something for yourself and something you wanted and realizing it doesn't exist. And that's that aha moment of opportunity.
So basically kind of like a scratch your own itch situation.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that sounds so simple and that's, right. But it also sounds so, how am I trying to put this? It sounds like it's not something that you can necessarily control.
No.
So do you have any advice for somebody who may be wanting to start a subscription or e-commerce business in general, who is looking for that right timing and, the right niche as well, like the right demand? So
I think for an e-commerce business, or a subscription business, I think in general, for the business to have the potential to be uber successful, like just super successful, I think there has to be some passion, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think most people are capable of having passion for something that doesn't interest them to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you look for your everyday life and the things you're doing, whether it's in your current job, current work, or your personal life or your hobbies. I think you find something in the mix of stuff you're already doing that you already enjoy, and look for a need there. When you're trying to do something and there's not a solution in place, or something takes too long, or you see something cool and you wish it was different. Mm-hmm. I think you pay attention to those moments to find that opportunity, because it's there. It's so hard to sit down and say, we're going to come up with ideas right now, right? Mm-hmm. Let's launch business and come up with a bunch of ideas. I think that's such a difficult way to do it. I think it's more just pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to the opportunity that's crossing, your desk, your everyday life.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because people, it's almost like a blind spot sometimes. I think maybe Sure. You don't even realize or recognize the opportunity that's sitting right in front of them.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, actually, that, it's about passion rather than just chasing dollars and trying to come up with an idea, as you said, because it's all about execution anyway. And the market decides at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So if you're not passionate, where are you going to get that fuel to continue? Yeah, exactly. Because it takes so long to really get to that point where you've got this dream in your head, I think. And it should never be underestimated, even though we always do it. I know I did with Subly, 100%. Did you guys do the same?
100%.
Yeah.
It's easy to.
Yeah. And in that, are there any like mistakes or realizations that were painful that you think like they were the most important realizations after you'd already launched and you were kind of in it and you're like, oh wait, this isn't going to go the way I expected to, but I still love it. And this is what I'm learning from it.
Yeah. So there were, the biggest mistake we made, and we were able to move past it and learn from it greatly. But it was in that first year with advertising. none of us had run e-commerce businesses, subscription businesses like this before. So, there's a huge learning curve, right? We're kind of, learning as we go, baptism by fire.
Mm-hmm.
And, we launched advertisements on Facebook right away, like most businesses do that are in the direct-to-consumer space. So we saw wild success right away in Facebook. Acquiring it's 2015, so you can acquire a customer for couple dollars back then, and we were just growing that as much as we could, and that was where all of our traffic came from, all of our conversions came from, and we just had blinders on at the time and naivety to think that we were really a business at the moment, because we weren't. We were 100% dependent on someone else, which is a business. But if something changes with the one variable, you're in a really bad spot.
Right.
And we had our advertising account shut down on a Friday at 6 p.m. On Labor Day weekend, which was going to be this huge sale. So we went from traffic, sales to literally nothing.
Alarm bells.
Yeah. And, getting a hold of Facebook is tough. We were back on probably close to a week later, but we went from, sales and traffic to literally zero overnight, because we were a new brand. So we didn't have all this SEO and organic and buzz and articles written about us at the time. We were just dependent on one platform. I think, not to derail too much, but it's very similar to these businesses that are selling exclusively on Amazon,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this coronavirus thing happens, and Amazon says, okay, we're no longer accepting shipments. I think they said they're changing it this week finally. But for, over a month, we're not accepting any shipments from any sellers if it's not an essential product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your business is 100% dependent on Amazon at that point, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like you're literally just out of luck. And if you sell out, you can't sell anymore until Amazon lifts it, which they're just doing this week. So I think it's the same thing. You have to diversify. You have to have multiple lead sources. You can't be dependent on someone else. That doesn't, and where it's not a true relationship partnership, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this goes back to kind of like marketplaces in general. It should be part of an overall marketing strategy, similar to the situation with the ads, as you said. Yeah, that's a tough lesson.
Yeah.
a good one.
It was a good one because we recovered from it.
Yeah. There you go. That's why it was a good lesson.
Right. But it immediately, as soon as we got back on Facebook, our conversations were, okay, what is this Google? What is this AdWords thing? Let's do that too. And let's do some advertising on Twitter. And it forced us immediately to diversify and have that disaster recovery where we're not dependent on one source.
I think it's important for people to remember when they're going through shit, to remember that there is a lesson and there's something positive that's probably going to come out the other side.
Yeah, so, there's got to be a silver lining, a learning experience in everything.
Yeah,
I think you have to take those experiences and make the tweaks to your business from it.
So let's imagine you're a chef, right? You're a chef now, and if you had all these ingredients to describe how a successful brand works, right? What, especially from an acquisition perspective. And when I say acquisition, I mean getting customers. What would you say those major ingredients are? Ideas and just buzzwords to kind of kick it off, like value props and positioning, etc. And like,
sure. So I think the most important piece of the puzzle is truly knowing and identifying your demographic and being a part of them, being a family, a community. And it goes from just your daily interaction to your prospects and customers to the experience of when they buy. You have to separate yourself. You have to, especially in the subscription box space, it's becoming less and less about this item and this item only being an item. You need to have this experience and this community and this group. And I think that's probably the most important thing when it comes to this, as a chef and I'm cooking up this dish, like the experience, that's what matters. And if you're at my restaurant and I'm serving you, it's that would be the ambiance, right? How the food's presented. It's all those intangibles that lead to, at the end of the night saying, wow, holy shit, what a great dinner. It's not just the food. There's so much more to it. And I think we kind of,
je ne sais quoi.
But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And I think buyers and consumers are almost starting to expect that now. The game's been risen and leveled up. And I think that's the main ingredient.
Yeah.
Everything else.
So in when you're thinking about like getting those very first customers, and I think it sounds like you actually are at an advantage at that early stage, actually, with regards to your answer to this question, that it's about the experience, the overall wow factor. You have more control over that at the early stage, right?
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super manageable at that point.
Yeah.
I remember we'd be on Facebook and someone would post something and either myself or Daniel or Patrick, our third partner, we'd be interacting. It was enjoyable. This was our passion. This was our product. And we wanted to talk about their experience, talk about, obviously, if they're buying this box, we probably have very similar hobbies and we're outdoor enthusiasts. So we quickly formed this community. And I think you have the best shot of doing that in the beginning while it's manageable, while it's, a couple hundred or a couple dozen customers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you're creating this community and then, you then tell your friends about it. And it just starts this organic snowball.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like some people, first time entrepreneurs, and I see this in the community sometimes, not that often, but people who like, they start the business and the ego creeps in quickly and, it happens to us all, but
sure.
There's that kind of like, oh, I don't deal with the customers. Like, and some people are thinking like, how can I hire someone to do CS, customer support, at a very early stage? And really that's you basically giving up your best lens into what the experience is being perceived as by the customer, but also the connectiveness with the community as well, which is really valuable for them as well. And I want to say something when I see that, but I don't. So I'm so glad that you said it.
Yeah, and it's natural to think, and it's probably the same argument we were talking about leaning the business and spending too much time on it. It can definitely be counterproductive if you spend 6 hours of the day in Facebook comments and not doing mission critical things for the business. But I think there is a balance. Prime example, a couple hours ago, actually, I allocate little 15-minute spots throughout the day to just get a pulse and grab it. And I opened up Facebook and there were a couple hundred comments from last night when we were sleeping. So opened it up, and this is about 7:00 my time. And I go to the first one that was maybe from a couple hours ago. And my business partner, Daniel, he had already responded, because it tells you who did the response. And it wasn't our CS team.
Okay.
It was Daniel. He had already beat me to it.
Love that.
But you've got to stay grounded. You've got to stay engaged, and you want to have the pulse and relationship with these people.
Yep.
because it's not just buying a product.
Yeah, definitely. For as long as it's physically possible, if not forever, if you can possibly do that.
Right.
And okay, so I actually have more of a tactical question actually right now, and I need to change gears here because I really want to hear this, and I'm sure the listeners do as well. But and I hate starting with this question now, like, or the beginning of it, because I think it's kind of cliche, or like I've used it too many times. But the precursor to the question is, if you were starting out again, what would you do? Like, what, tactically, like principle wise as well. So like, are you going to, what advertising channels would you go to? What approach would you take? Does that make sense? Because I feel like a lot of people don't really know where to start when it comes to getting those first customers. So they have the idea, they got the passion, they've got the experience, they've got their product, they've got the box all done. But what next? Like, people really get stuck with this, like taking this leap into actually acquiring customers. And like, what would you suggest?
So obviously touching again on the story I told a little bit ago about the Facebook piece, on the jump, testing everything. Take if your budget is X, divide it into a few pieces and test everything. I think we were scared to scale as fast as possible. We were in retrospect and hindsight now, 5 years later, if I knew it was 2015 and we're acquiring customers for $5 a piece, I literally would have taken every I would have called every friend, and I would have bought as many as I could for $5 a piece. Yeah. I think it's easy to say it in hindsight, but that's why it's good advice, is that while you're having the moderate, mild success, it's also human nature for it to become complacency, and just you think that it's just going to continue like this. Mm-hmm. And you have to take advantage of that situation and strike while the opportunity exists, because it goes away. So those are the two biggest things. One, try everything, like every medium possible. Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, just go. Podcasts, as soon as you grow to a point that can, have that sort of budget. Yeah. And try everything. And when you see any kind of success, go on it. Like, right. figure out sourcing the additional product and ordering that all. Get the sales. You'll figure out the rest.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Get started, get the customer in the door first, then you'll figure out the rest. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And it's really hard for people to see that, I think, because they're so involved with the passion of the product, the experiences we were talking about. But what if you only had, say, $100, right? And we do see this, like, people who are like, what would you do with $100 if you had it? How would you use that $100 to get a customer? I mean, that's not going to go far with advertising. Let's be honest.
It's not. And when you're testing, it can go by really, really quickly.
I mean, you do have time, though. I would say, like, you either have money or you have time. Like, it seems to be at that early stage. It's one or the other. And I think, $100 isn't going to go far in advertising, but maybe you have some time. Are there any suggestions, John?
Yeah. So if you only have $100 and, test it, maybe you just test it on Facebook, right? And that's the place. Or maybe you just test it on Google Ads for maybe a very defined search. Someone searching for the specific keywords that is your product, maybe that's where it's best spent. But if you have time, and we had time, so we did this because we were bootstrapped. We didn't take any funding. This was our own money. We were on Reddit threads. We were in forums. And it was us. It wasn't like we were some troll account. We were saying, hey, we just started this monthly subscription box called BattlBox. Mm-hmm. We were literally old school guerrilla marketing, the equivalent of walking around your neighborhood with flyers, but we were doing it online,
talking to the community.
We're just telling everybody, hey, we're here. Check it out.
It sounds like it was a very community driven approach in that sense. Like the people basically helped design your business.
Right. Because people gave feedback and we listened. So I think I think if you only have $100, test it on one platform. Try to get some success and some revenue to try other places. But if you have time, it's just as valuable of an asset.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what product you have. There's a Facebook group about it. I think Facebook did a commercial about I don't know if they had it over there, but
I don't think so. But
here in the States, Facebook did. It was weird. It wasn't underwater basket weaving, but it was something very, very niche. Might have been a musical instrument, but it was something, and it's a Facebook commercial. And the lady, the protagonist in the commercial, she finds a Facebook group to find everyone else into it. There is a Facebook group for everything. There's a Reddit group for everything.
It's true.
There's so many forums that are dedicated to that one topic or hobby. And I think, those are your ideal customers anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk to them. Let them know what you're doing. And you'll be amazed at how many people just want to help just because you're a like-minded individual, because you have a similar hobby. They'll post it places. They'll help spread it just because it's that community. Yeah,
definitely. We have a Facebook group as well. And it's definitely been a really great resource for being community driven as a product. And I 100% that I believe I would probably take this exact approach that you're saying now, knowing how all this seems to work.
Right.
But one thing I will say is a caveat: if you are thinking about joining our group, don't self-promote. I know John said it, and I'm saying it, but don't do it.
It's probably against the policy.
It is. But obviously, there's groups that are much more open, that are less moderated.
Just don't do it on yours.
Yeah, just don't do it on ours. Okay, so I know you're tight on time, and we've been talking for quite a bit because obviously we've gone into some really interesting topics. But I'm gonna dive into this one, which is really close to my heart, which is about mental health and business. Now, starting a business is difficult, really hard. Probably one of the hardest things you can possibly do. For you, there was 3 of you together, which probably made the dynamic a little different to what I experienced as a solo founder. What suggestions do you have for handling the pressures, the strains, and the self-doubt that comes with starting a business?
So it's tough. I think the word of the hour, community. I think you have to. So I'm very OCD when I have everything on my calendar and I'm managing my day. Have to do this, have to do that. Blocking off time for self-love, personal love, friends. You gotta put that in there. I think when you're starting a business, there's already not enough time in the day. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to make time for your friends, for your loved ones. If you like playing a video game, for that, for whatever passion, hobby outside of the business, you have to make time for that. And I think setting those expectations in the beginning, just like you're setting expectations for your business, and you're building this narrative, you have to make time, because it's easy just to sit in front of the computer and lose track of it. And it's a slippery slope, with work-life balance. And I think you have to make time.
Make it literally a priority.
Yeah. It is an equal priority. As crazy as that is to say. Now it's not the same amount of time. You definitely still have to invest a lot of time in the majority into the business, but make time throughout it all for friends and family and other hobbies, because if you don't do it in the beginning, it'll start not happening at all.
Yeah.
And then you can't get out of it.
Guilty.
Yeah. You do.
It's hard. It creeps as well. And you find suddenly you're feeling more and more anxious, or whatever your symptoms are of not taking care of yourself. And then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, I need to make that more of a priority again. So it's kind of like an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, look, man, this has been a really great interview. And as I said, I know you're busy, so I appreciate you taking the time out. And thank you so much for being a part of the Subscription Rockstar podcast.
No, I'm excited to hear this.
If there's anywhere that someone, where listeners can find you, if you got a Twitter handle or something you want to share right now?
No.
Just John Roman.
John. Middle initial M is in Martin.
Okay.
Roman at Twitter.
Cool.
Johnny Rome's on Instagram.
Instagram's the place, man.
Yeah.
Make sure you give him a follow. He's a legend, and you won't regret it. So, thank you so much again, man, and rock on.
Okay. Hey,
stay safe.
On. Thanks for having me, man. Chat with you soon.
Of course. We'll be talking again soon. Stay safe.
You've been listening to the Subscription Rockstars podcast, brought to you by Subly, the #1 subscription e-commerce platform. We appreciate you taking the time to engage with and listen to this podcast. Make sure you click subscribe to find out when the next Subscription Rockstar podcast episode is available. For now, keep rocking on.